Are you sure? Hi everyone, I'd like to start off with the ignorance, misconceptions, misinformation and fear that many people have when it comes to home education. We are constantly asked by scholars and the general public, who monitors what you are doing? Don't people come in to check on you? Why is it automatically assumed that because we home educate our children, they are somehow missing and hidden from society? That we are doing something illegal and dangerous? Why should our children be in schools that are not accommodating them properly? Schools that are falsely stating to parents that their SEND children do not need an EHCP because they don't want funding ring-fenced to that child. And guess what? They are now thinking of scrapping what little accommodations they do give them in mainstream school by removing EHCPs altogether. That's not to mention the amount of ableism, restraint and gaslighting that happens in many educational settings. Society tells us loudly every day that our autistic SEND children won't make it, using the assumption that they are not worth investing in, as they will never pay taxes. I was saying this way before R.F. Kennedy let loose with his sick-inducing speech on autistic kids, and that they will never fit in. At home we can accommodate our children. They can learn at their own pace, when and how they wish to, and they are fully accepted for who they are. Our kids may not fit in. They smash the mould. They rotate it and fill it with rainbows, unicorns, daydreams, monster trucks, rockets, and a sprinkle of creativity and happiness. Our children's classroom is the world and everything in it. Learning in the middle of the woods, on a canal boat, on trains, planes, in farms, on tractors, in theatres and libraries, cooking, baking, gardening, exploring, and lying on a trampoline with hot chocolate and blankets under the stars. Their learning is constant. There are people that will not understand us, and that's okay. But if they make the mistake of passing this bill and try to monitor us, control us, or insist our children go into the factory settings of school, they will have pandemonium on their hands, because we won't go quietly. We will fight for our children's rights, and we won't stop. Because when you are the parent of a SEND child, it's what we are used to having to do. So Bridget Phillipson, a message from all of us here: bollocks to your proposed view, and bollocks to our government who refuse to accommodate and invest in our amazing kids. Thank you from myself on behalf of our autistic-led organisation, Autistic Inclusive Meets. I have a young autistic young person here who'd like to say something as well, if that's all right.
Woo! This is Riddley.
Hi, my name's Riddley, and first off, I just want to say my own experience with home education. School setting in almost any shape or form was just not right for me, and I went to school for 4 years, and it just did not suit me at all. I learned almost nothing, and now since being home ed, I've been able to learn about British and American politics, and it's been amazing. But I want to ask some questions to the government. So, I've read the bill, I've read part of the bill, and the most distressing part of this bill is the fact that the local authorities, if they review a child's home ed situation, they can give, and they can say, your child is not receiving a good education, and they can give them a school attendance order. This is ridiculous, because the local authority does not have to explain further. They do not have to give a reason why that child has to go to school. They do not, and they definitely won't understand the situation that the child is in, their previous school experiences, their special needs.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you can say, the government can say that we are investing in, throwing money at special needs, but throwing money at education and throwing money at special needs is not the only thing you can do. In the long run, it will not provide the results you're looking for. You've promised radical change, so deliver that.
Yes.
Do not take the system further.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And finally, one last thing. You pledged to hire 6,500 new teachers. Where are those teachers going to come from, and how are you going to ensure that they're going to stay in the schools because of the overcrowded classes, thanks to your VAT on private schools, which makes sure that a bunch of kids from independent schools are going to come to the states, and how are you going to make sure that they're going to be paid adequately and not going to quit halfway through? And then finally, I've rambled on for a bit too long, but
last point, you're okay.
Finally, one thing the government should do is look at the independent sector and ask the question, why are so many people with special educational needs and disabilities, why are so many of those people going to independent schools rather than the state sector? And how can we learn from them? Thank you. Thank you, Riddley.
Good work, love.
Well done. Nice job.
There we go, I need to stop it.
You were amazing.
Hello, my name is Sataj, and I've got not too much to say, but in my opinion, I feel like it's important. In my opinion, we should be the ones profiting from our education, not the government.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So yeah, everyone thinks differently, and everyone is different. Everyone learns differently, but
That was good.
what was I going to say? That they shouldn't tax us for trying to learn it. They shouldn't try to do that.
Yeah.
They are putting tax on schools and like home education, but they're not putting tax on sweet brands such as Jaffa Cakes. Are those more important than schools and the future of this country? The reason that we nominated this Prime Minister was because we thought that they would provide a good future for this country, and we thought that they would make this country better and support this country. But they're not going to do that, and they're going to try to tax the schools and make it worse for a lot of people by ruining the education. Then I don't really think that's good enough. It's not good enough to profit off of schools, and it's not good enough for the country and for the children.
Everybody, I'm speaking to Riddley today. He's got something to say about the American Health Secretary.
So RFK Jr., or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he's an American Health Secretary. He was confirmed by the Senate, and he's a complete crack. He says that, for instance, autistic people, autism ruins lives and families. They'll never pay taxes, which is ridiculous. What, is there some sort of, tax, like a check of, are you autistic when you're filing your taxes and you can just get out of paying your taxes? That sounds awesome.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can get out of paying your taxes. They'll never go to the toilet. They'll never, write a poem.
Go to the prom. There's quite a few things.
It's really, really harmful, really ridiculous. And there are people who believe this, people who think that he's making America healthy again, that he's telling the truth that the establishment don't want. Well, he's a crack. He's taken money from big, he's taken, him and Trump have taken money from big companies. All they want, they've taken money from, he's an anti-vaccine conspiracy theorist. He's peddling, science which has been disproven multiple times by multiple different scientists across the political spectrum. And even the one Republican who voted against his confirmation was Mitch McConnell, who I hate him, but thank God there was at least one Republican willing to vote against this absolute moron.
What is that you're holding?
You handed this to me. It's a list of books on Amazon which peddle anti-autism conspiracy theories or anti-autism messages, which Amazon are displaying on their website, which are available to buy. And this is a petition which says we don't want Amazon to sell these books anymore. Which, to be honest, I totally agree with that. These books, absolutely horrendous, and stick it to Amazon. They suck. They force their workers to pee in bottles. They underpay them. They overwork them. It's ridiculous.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Practicing in the law of education for the last 30-something years, and really, I don't think I've ever prompted myself to come before Parliament, the place where we stand for democracy, where laws are made, and feel so opposed to a piece of law. And they call it the Wellbeing Act, the Children Wellbeing in Schools Act. What on earth has it got to do with well-being? You see, the difference is when you're sitting in an office and you're reading documents, you look at policy, you're persuaded by policy, but you don't look into the eyes of the parents. You don't look into the eyes of the children, because those children's eyes tell you something. They tell you that things are not always working out, that school and a one-size-fits-all approach is not really always the right approach, and there's something else that's needed. This law, if it were to become law, is what I described it on social media as abusive. It's a raid on parental rights. And it's not just a raid on the home education community, it's a raid on the SEN community. It's a raid on women who feel too scared to speak out because they'll worry that their rights will be lost if they speak out to the councils and say that they're suffering from domestic abuse. Because if they do so, it will trigger a Section 47 investigation. And we all know that a Section 47 investigation is one of the criteria, one of the grounds that can be utilised to prevent someone from having a freedom of choice. So it's the choice of being abused or losing your autonomy. That's no choice. I would be saying, if I was in government, what are we doing? Is this a responsible piece of legislation? Is it responsible for data sharing, for records to actually prompt local authority intervention purely based on algorithm, not based on need? And what is it when you can say that you know your child best, and yet someone sitting in office, a stranger, can say that they know what your child actually needs because they will decide what is in fact better? Because the legislation empowers the council to have the discretion to decide whether or not you can continue to home educate in certain circumstances. We all know that. And whereas a defence existed before, the defence of suitable education, it's no longer the question anymore. It's going to be down to whether or not school is in fact better. A decision taken by a person who I called a stranger when I wrote about this on social media. And I'm delighted that my post, when I explained that this legislation, I believe, is the most dangerous legislation, I was delighted to see on my analytics that 1.5 million people viewed that post. Because it is the most dangerous legislation. Where do you actually see legislation come in and actually see governments roll back from the legislation and the rights that they've taken away? In the 30-odd years that I've practiced law and education, what I've seen is a growth of rights, believe it or not. Because before the 1996 Act, there needed to be more to help children with special educational needs and provision for parents to elect and make a preference. So we saw the 96 Act, and then after that we saw the 2014 Children and Families Act. That was adding to rights. This legislation, if it were to become legislation, is taking away rights. Taking away rights that we've had and we've fought for the last 20-odd years. It's dangerous. And don't believe the rhetoric. Don't believe the rhetoric that this is about safeguarding children. Because children in school, of course school is good for many children, but it's not good for all children. And children who are bullied, children who are suffering because they can't cope with the sensory demands of an environment, children who are socially anxious, vulnerable children, depressed children. those rights, those children, I've warned, there's a real danger that these children will lose their lives. And I'm not actually being dramatic. I really aren't. Because in the 30 years that I've practiced law, I've had the unfortunate experience of speaking to parents who've lost their children to suicide. And I believe that the suicide among children will grow if you force them, shoehorn them into environments that are not good for them. So my view is I stand here before Parliament in the hope that someone will listen. Eventually, someone will listen. Because believe you me, friends here today, this, in my view, is a line in the sand. This is where government have encroached into the rights of parents beyond that I've ever seen in my 30 years of practicing law. And I say no. And believe you me, when I say no, I mean no. Because I'm looking for the right candidate. Because when the right candidate comes forward that ticks all the necessary boxes, I'm going to take, if I can, this government to court. Because it's an infringement on rights. The Human Rights Act came in. People believe it's fundamentally changing, giving people opportunities and powers. And this legislation sweeping in, removing, disregarding those rights. Your freedom of choice, your freedom to choose what school is best for your child, your freedom to be a parent. That's not rights. That's called sabotage. That's called abandonment. And I would call it downright abuse. So it's not a job for a lawyer generally to come in here and talk about politics. It really isn't. My job is to interpret the law, to tell you what I think you can do and what you can't do. But one thing that I find so distressing as a lawyer in the years that I've practiced is that it's all very well parliamentarians saying they want votes, but they don't look into the eyes of the children. They don't look into the eyes of the parents. And they don't sit in my seat when I say to them there's nothing I can do. Because believe you me, this legislation, if it were to become legislation, is going to empower the state beyond that which I've ever seen in my experience today. And believe you, friends, we must all say no together. Thank you very much.
How that came about, really, I was, like this? Okay, yeah. So how the book came about was, we were right here at the spot. I was like playing chess with Ben, and we were all just talking about it. And I kind of just felt that our voices wasn't being heard, and through that we came up with the idea of this book here, and I was just like, I mentioned it, and then like 5 days later I was like being told, alright, write your bit, come on, we've got to do this. And through that we worked together and we created this book, and yeah, and about what it's about is like just saying all of our objections to the bill and getting it out there as a reference point, and also it's quite interesting as well. But yeah.
What's the book called?
Hidden Voices Speak.
Say the name again.
Hidden Voices Speak.
Alison, what, in your opinion, is the biggest problem with the bill as it is currently drafted?
Well, I believe that they don't actually, the way it's written is,
it's like they don't really understand what home education is, and they write it in ways which objects to home education, and I feel like they need to check their facts and maybe talk to some home educators actually, because
Great idea!
And Ben, can I ask you the same thing? Ben designed the cover for the book. What, in your opinion, is the biggest problem with the home ed bill, with the children's so-called well-being and schools bill?
Thank you, everyone. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is that for victims of abuse within families, the part of the bill that allows both parents access to the information collected in the register would mean that possibly the information would get passed to both parents.
Thank you. Roughly 3 million children a year, and it's probably underreported due to various taboos. The proposed information sharing in the bill would be that of these 3 million, those who have currently escaped from their abusers would be placed back in danger. Let's just say that again, the Children's Wellbeing and Schools Bill will be placing children who are currently safe into danger. Their abusers could literally be able to track their every move. I'm sure we can see what the consequence of a dangerous criminal, someone who has committed some of the worst crimes known to our society, being able to predict that their victim is due to walk down a particular road at a particular time on a Monday afternoon. What might that criminal do to that child? So I can hear you thinking, surely anyone who's done these things would be safely in jail. Sadly not. Convictions for these type of crimes are less than 2%. And the numbers have got worse rather than better over the last couple of decades. Even when convictions happen, they can take years, during which are kept of the movements of any child or adult. It sounds, doesn't it, like something from a dystopian fantasy novel.